Welcome back to the College Corner. I'm Amber, aka the Adulting Queen, and I am here with Professor Williams today to talk about how do you interact with professors. If you're new to the College Corner, this is just your go-to guide for all things college, no matter what the question is about, whether it's classes, residence life, student activities, financial aid, scholarships, registrar, literally anything about college. This is where we are answering those questions. So if you have any, please drop them in the chat below and share this video with a friend that needs it. Whether you're in college or looking to go to college, we just hope that this helps you to pick the correct school for you, answer questions that are not commonly answered, and answer your questions that you have. So, like I said, we have Professor Williams here. Please feel free to introduce yourself, who you are, how you got into this, and then we'll jump into our questions.
Today on Conversations with Professors, I kind of know from two different cultures, right? And not even just two different cultures, but a lot of cultures. One of my schools that I teach at is a really diverse and one of the diverse universities in the country. So, I love this topic. I love trying to provide as best as possible, but I will admit that it's not a one size fit all for something like this. But yeah, I do that. I'm also a co-founder of a leadership development company called Trill and Not Trill. I also wrote two books. One being The Kid That Wore Kicks. I actually have them right here. So The Kid That Wore Kicks is the children's book that I wrote. Then I also co-wrote a book about pop culture, education, and leadership called We Wear Kicks to Work. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. How did I get into teaching? I kind of fell into it. I was in doing a lot of public speaking, and I also had a really strong background in business at a very young age. And a professor took a chance on me, and I think that's why it's important to have this conversation. I had a conversation with a professor. They seen something in me further than just being a graduate student. I became what we call a TA, which is a teacher assistant. And then after being a teacher assistant for a semester, I ended up getting a role without applying to teach. So, that is my journey into becoming a professor.
We love that. And you teach business courses.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. I teach business management and I also teach marketing.
Perfect for undergraduate and graduate level, or just undergraduate students? Both. Okay.
Both.
Love that. So what is the best way for students to ask questions and seek clarification of material outside of class time? So utilizing office hours, all of those things.
Yes, I think the first thing is always just, let's strip the titles away from people. And I always say this to all individuals. Excuse me. Let's strip the titles away from people and just look at how can we connect from a human to human basis, right? Your professor is a human, right? It's not a professor. It's not anything else but a human first. When you take the title away, they're still a human. So think about how you interact with humans on a day to day. Add a little bit of respect to that. So if a professor is a doctor, make sure we call them by their proper title as well as their proper gender, right? We make sure we respect our professors. In addition to that, you should be able to meet your professors before office hours. So I'm a big advocate on the first day of school. You be that student to introduce yourself to the professor. So it's not as cold when you really need help, right? So seek guidance, seek relationship before help, right? Before you need help, right? That's the key of building a relationship with your professor. So yes, you want to know the office hours and understand that stuff on the syllabus, but you want to also introduce yourself prior to even needing the help.
Yes, I could say I was not the best student at doing that. I can only remember really making a relationship with one of my teachers, and I for sure wish I did that more
Right.
because they, like you said, not will help you more, but it's just different when you make a relationship with somebody versus you're just showing up to class, doing what you need to do, and going about your business.
Correct.
And how can students connect their courses to their career interests and their goals, especially when it's not a class that's tied to something they're interested in?
Yeah, I think that no matter what happens in class and no matter what you learn, it can always tie to real life. So let's just say, even if it's as small as a group project, right? When you get into this real world and you get into this space, you can't do anything alone. So even group projects in a class, we like to call general ed class that might not be or fulfill your major, it still has the effects of being around community, learning in community, as well as working and becoming a better teammate around not only your classmates, but your future coworkers as well. So I think that's the first step outside of just the basic knowledge. And then in addition to that, it's always looking at your education from a wider lens, right? Don't look at it from a one track, one mind lens. We always like to say for professors, excuse me, you always want to say from professors, you want to teach them a culturally responsive lens. So start to look at your culture and start to look at the things around you and understand that education exists everywhere, right? So you might not be interested in, I was just having this conversation with somebody about geometry, right? And then tying geometry to something in real life. We have a lot of digital technology in our hands, resources, where we can go online and even sometimes on AI, whether you like it or not, and say, how can I tie geometry to pop culture? How can I tie geometry to the World Series? How can I tie geometry to my last doctor's appointment? Like, look at ways and examples of what your real life is and try to tie it in. Whether you have to use technology to help you learn that, or take courses that you feel that professors are more culturally responsive and understand who you are. That's another step. Or the third step is really opening your mind up to a different lens and looking at the scope of your work and say to yourself every single day, how does this affect me in my real life? And that will help you moving
Yep.
forward.
Yeah, the first class I thought about that I did not like in undergrad was art history, and I was basically failing that class, and I dropped it. But at the time, I needed these tips for myself because I was
Right.
not doing that at all. I was just like, this class doesn't make any sense to what I want to do. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the last thing, and I kind of messed up because there's actually 4 points. Because the first point I actually brought up was, participating in class in groups. You go to class, you go to school for networking, most importantly. So you might not enjoy the class. You might listen to all 3 points I mentioned after the group portion and think, man, I can't relate to that, Professor Lim. But what I'm telling you is that in those classes could be your next coworker. In those classes could be the person that connects you to your next internship or your next scholarship. So when I say open minded, I don't mean open minded just subject based, but being open minded within the individuals that are in your classes, as well as your professors. Like some of your professors that went to the grad school or the schools that you want to go to for grad and doctorate programs. Some of these professors are connected to other individuals in different fields that you want to get into. So I think it's super important for you to go with an open mind, not just in the books, but also amongst your classmates as well.
Yeah. And the academic side of institution, there are so many resources because a lot of professors, especially when you become tenured, you have your doctorate, like you had to do a lot of networking and a lot of connecting to get for them to get where they are. So yes, they for sure know a lot of people, a lot of things in different areas based on their research and all of that stuff.
Yep, agreed. Great, Amber.
But my other question for you is, what situations have you seen students put themselves in your class that you wish they didn't? Like, what are the most common things that students are doing in class that like all professors are like, please stop doing this?
The two things is number one, fall behind on your work, right? The way you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So just because you're not into this class or you're not interested in something, we build bad habits, right? And bad habits trickle into the things that we are passionate and love. So what I'm saying is that we make sure that we build good habits, whether that's study habits, building a calendar, not missing dates, being proper on email communication, right? Understanding how to deliver email communication the right way, understanding communication skills from a digital point of view to an in-person point of view. Like these are all the things that I want you to take advantage of in every single class, right? So don't slack or don't lack because when you do that in one class, it just trickles into other classes. That's number one. Number two is what we talked about in the first question is not building a relationship with your professors, right? That's the one thing I do not like to see because again, you don't know, you can't rely on just a career center or just your degree to get a career, right? It
Not
just
at
doesn't
all.
work that way in higher education. Do we wish it worked that way? Of course, but we know that it's not 100% rate of you going to the career center and getting a career, right? You know, most of the careers that you're going to get over 80% is through a referral, right? And that's a fact. You can look that up on LinkedIn and other places. So it's important for you to build those referral bases, aka those people in your network that can refer you and put you in places. So get to know your professors, all your professors. And I think the last key point that I think that we get really bothered by as professors is it's not always the professor's fault. right? Let's just be real. Accountability is everything. Please take accountability for your actions, but also take accountability and speak up when you feel like you're done wrong by a university or a professor. But make
Yes.
sure, through history, through talking to other trusted individuals and advocates on campus, that you're handling the right way before you attack somebody and build a bad rapport with a professor. Because again, you don't know who's who, and you don't know how somebody will be able to take that, right? So it's important to be accountable for your actions, whether good or bad, right? If it's bad and you know it, I suggest that you reach out to the professor right away and say, hey, I'm looking for assistance. Hey, I'm having issues. Hey, I had work. Hey, I lost a family member. Don't wait to the end. And if it's a good accountability, it's just making sure that you consistently stay that way moving forward in that class and all the work that you're doing.
Yep. And what would you say some differences are for first year students entering college in their interactions and how they think about teachers in high school versus professors in college?
I think that your approach, I always tell people this: when you get from high school to college, unless you took college courses or college based courses, the semesters are shorter, right? So don't go into it like I'll talk to them one day. 15 weeks go a lot faster than the amount of weeks that are in a school year, right? And every school fluctuates, but from September to May or August to May or September to June, you you already have taken two different math courses, for example, in that time span, depending on your major, two different sciences. So that means you have two different professors. If your school is not structured that way and you're coming from an older traditional school, that's the first major difference, is that all the classwork is bunched into a smaller time frame. So it's even more imperative that you make this relationship with your professor early, because when it's September, by the time you blink, it's election day, and it's November. By the time you blink again, it's Christmas, and you're already done with the course. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, that's a huge tip. And I mean, we talk about it being in education, but like the transition from high school to college is very difficult. But one of the most difficult things for students, just in my experience of working with them too, is the academics because of the
Right.
calendar year, because of the structure, because of the rigor of certain classes, because of the differences in style of a teacher in K through 12 and a professor in a college.
Right.
That is the top thing that people struggle with. Hence, us having this conversation.
Right. 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 Right.
And is there anything else that you want to add that is from your knowledge of being a professor, tips or things that we did not discuss?
I don't think so. I think that actually I do. I think the one thing is be inquisitive, throughout your college journey. If you don't know, ask. I know that sounds so cliche or basic, but the more questions you ask, the more successful you're gonna be, right? Because the more questions you ask, you realize um you start to put yourself in a space of solutions, right? You think about more solutions than just letting things be. And the more questions you ask, you never know what doors or spaces that you didn't know exist now in your mind, because you're so inquisitive and you're putting yourself in those positions, those tough conversations. So if you don't know something, ask. If you want to really succeed in college, the last thing I'll say is whatever major you're looking at, make sure you look at what it's going to be like 5 years from now and not 5 minutes from now, right? So if you're looking at it from a lens of what it's going to be in 5 minutes, you're already too late. If you're looking from a lens that's 5 years, you're kind of late, right? If you really want to go far, you want to look at what it's going to look like in the next 10 years, so that you're taking the right courses, you're aligning yourself with the right certificates, you're putting yourselves in the right schools to succeed at your major or the career you want to go into.
Yeah, another like thing that needs to be improved is the planning for college and through college, because we like put all the emphasis on getting there your first year, but they're not looking to sophomore year, what do I need to do? Junior year, what do I need to do? Senior year, what do I need to do? And I know it can be overwhelming because it's like, this is a new experience. This is something that I'm signing up to do. I'm excited about. So I don't want to like overwhelm myself knowing that I'm planning out 4 years. But even your 4 years of college will go by so quickly, and you don't want to leave that experience, that very expensive experience, feeling like you didn't get what you wanted to or hoped for out of it. And I feel like the main part is because it's not planned for.
Yep.
And then it goes back to just how do we recruit students, how do we talk to them about college, all that stuff. But that is for sure a huge thing that needs to be looked at, of like, how does a student plan academically, personally, career wise for college and through it for the 4 years.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take advantage of it, you'll be a person that graduates and you're upset because you're like, I didn't like get anything out of this. And it is a two-way street, but it's mostly what you're putting into it for the 4 years.
Agreed.
So thank you so much. Please let them know where they can follow you, where they can find you, remind them about the books again, where they can purchase those, and how they can support you.
Yeah, thank you again for having me, Amber. I think this is a truly important, not only topic, but platform for students and individuals and adults alike, even if it's parents, right, to help them understand things of that nature. So, of course, we have the book, We Wear Kicks to Work. Again, this is a co-written book by me and myself and my business partner, Jeff Dess. And then I also wrote, again, a children's book, The Kid That Wore Kicks. They're both located on Amazon. You can follow me on all social media at professor.williams, right? So professor.williams is my Instagram handle. If you have any questions, you can always ask me there. And again, thank you for having me.
Of course.